J.J. McCarthy was supposed to be that guy, the golden boy from Michigan, national champion, highly ranked recruit, and the ultimate winner. He had the looks, the swagger, and a resume that screamed future franchise quarterback. The Minnesota Vikings thought so too, taking him 10th overall in the 2024 NFL Draft. Scouts called him the next Joe Burrow. Michigan fans said he'd be the one to finally bring stability to Minnesota after the Kirk Cousins era. Fast forward to November 24th, 2025, just after week 12 of his second season, and it's ugly. Like, really ugly. Because right now, J.J. McCarthy looks nothing like the savior he was advertised to be. Through 12 weeks, McCarthy has put up 6 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, a brutal 54% completion rate, and a 57.9 passer rating, one of the worst among all starting quarterbacks this year. He's averaged just 154 passing yards per game, and his latest performance, a 34.2 passer rating in a 23-6 loss to Green Bay. That's the kind of stat line that gets you benched, not built around. And when you remember the hype, the NFL-ready label, the glowing pre-draft interviews, the college dominance, it just makes the fall-off sting even more. Because McCarthy didn't just fall short of expectations, he's been one of the worst quarterbacks in football. So how did this happen? How did one of the most polished college quarterbacks in recent memory turn into a turnover machine in under 2 seasons? This is the rise, fall, and reality check of J.J. McCarthy. And to understand how he even got to the NFL, we have to understand his rise through the ranks. J.J. McCarthy's story starts in LaGrange Park, Illinois, where he attended Nazareth Academy, a small private school that became a quarterback powerhouse the moment he showed up. From the beginning, McCarthy looked like someone who'd been groomed for the position. Smooth mechanics, elite field vision, and the kind of pocket calmness you just can't teach. By his sophomore season, he was already a state champion, throwing for over 3,400 yards and 36 touchdowns, and building a reputation as one of the most efficient high school quarterbacks in the country. But JJ wasn't satisfied dominating small school competition. He wanted to prove himself against the best of the best. So for his senior year, he transferred to IMG Academy in Bradenton, Florida, the national powerhouse that churns out NFL talent like a factory. At IMG, McCarthy's game leveled up. Surrounded by 5-star receivers, elite linemen, and national attention, he proved he could lead any locker room. He flashed the same traits that would later define his reputation: laser accuracy on the move, quick decision-making, and a leadership presence older than his years. By the end of his senior year, JJ was a highly sought-after recruit, ranked among the top quarterbacks in the 2021 class. He wasn't just a kid with a big arm, he was a leader with an it factor. Every scout said the same thing: this kid wins. When J.J. McCarthy committed to the University of Michigan, the expectations weren't just high, they were astronomical. Michigan hadn't had a true elite quarterback in decades, and fans were desperate for someone to bring them back to national relevance. At first, McCarthy was the understudy, the quiet, confident backup to Cade McNamara. But the moment he got his shot, the energy around the program completely shifted. McCarthy didn't just win the job, he changed the culture. He led Michigan to back-to-back Big Ten titles, and eventually delivered what the fanbase had been starving for since 1997: a national championship. Over his 3 seasons in Ann Arbor, McCarthy threw for over 6,200 yards and 49 touchdowns, completing nearly 70% of his passes. He wasn't the type to light up box scores with 400-yard games. He was the kind of quarterback who controlled the pace, managed the moment, and found ways to win. Calm, composed, efficient, he looked like he'd been built in a lab to play mistake-free football. NFL scouts loved that. The word that kept coming up in pre-draft circles was polished. McCarthy didn't force throws, he didn't panic, he didn't crumble. To evaluators, he was the rare college quarterback who already played like a pro. But even amid the glory, there were whispers, cracks beneath the perfect record, Michigan's dominance during one of the most controversial stretches in modern college football, the sign-stealing scandal. Reports surfaced that staffers had allegedly scouted opponents' signals, giving Michigan an edge that left fans and critics divided. Every blowout win, every smooth McCarthy performance came with that lingering question: were they that good or just that prepared? And it wasn't just a scandal. Many wondered if McCarthy's success was partly a product of his environment. He played behind a top 5 offensive line, handed off to NFL-level running backs like Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards, and was backed by one of the best defenses in the nation. Michigan was a machine, and McCarthy was the steady hand guiding it, not necessarily the engine driving it. To some scouts, that raised a red flag. He'd shown he could thrive within a perfect system, but what happens when that safety net disappears? What happens when he's forced to throw 35 times a game behind an average line, with the defense giving up points and the game on his shoulders? He proved to NFL scouts that he was a proven winner, a national champion, and a picture of composure, but also an untested product of one of the most talented rosters in college football. The question wasn't if McCarthy could win at the next level, it was whether he could win when everything around him wasn't perfect. The 2024 NFL Draft was supposed to be the night J.J. McCarthy's fairy tale reached its peak. After leading Michigan to a national championship, scouts fell in love with his polished mechanics, his winner's DNA, and that signature calm demeanor under pressure. He wasn't the flashiest quarterback, not the biggest arm, not the best athlete, but he was the most NFL ready. He looked like a young Joe Burrow with a sprinkle of Tom Brady's composure. And when the Minnesota Vikings took him 10th overall, the message was loud and clear. This was the future. No more bridge quarterbacks, no more Kirk Cousins. This was the start of a new era in Minnesota. Draft analysts couldn't stop talking about it. ESPN called McCarthy the most stable quarterback in the class. Todd McShay said he's everything you want from a leader: accurate, efficient, and unshakably poised. Vikings fans flooded social media with highlight reels, dubbing him Mini Burrow and the Midwest Messiah. It was optimism overload. Minnesota finally had a clean slate, a young star to rally behind. But here's the thing about draft night dreams: they always look perfect under bright lights. It's when the pads come on that reality hits. McCarthy's rookie year didn't just get off to a slow start. It never started at all. Just weeks into his first training camp, JJ suffered a torn meniscus, ending his season before it even began. The Vikings announced he'd undergo surgery, and suddenly the quarterback of the future became the quarterback on ice. He was supposed to sit, learn, and maybe take a few late-season snaps behind veteran Sam Darnold, who had been brought in as the placeholder. But then, something no one expected happened. Sam Darnold started balling out. For the first time since college, Darnold looked comfortable, decisive in the pocket, smooth in Kevin O'Connell's offense, and shockingly consistent. The same guy who'd been written off in New York, Carolina, and San Francisco suddenly looked like a reborn vet. By mid-season, Minnesota fans weren't chanting JJ's name, they were chanting Sammy D. Darnold led the Vikings to a 14-3 record, threw for over 4,300 yards and 35 touchdowns, and finished with a career-high 102.5 passer rating, his best season as a pro. The Minnesota Vikings didn't just surprise people in 2024, they dominated. Behind Sam Darnold, the former journeyman turned redemption story, the Vikings boasted one of the best offenses in the NFC and finished as one of the league's biggest shocks. Darnold was sensational, calm in the pocket, decisive, and accurate. And although Minnesota's playoff run ended abruptly in the wild card round in a loss to the Rams, the locker room rallied around Darnold. He'd earned their respect, he'd earned the city's respect, and most importantly, he'd earned the right to stay. But when the offseason came, the Vikings made a decision to let Sam Darnold walk. No franchise tag, no extension, no competition. because they believed J.J. McCarthy, their shiny top 10 draft pick, was ready. It was a franchise-defining gamble, a playoff roster with a rookie who had never taken an NFL snap. O'Connell backed the move publicly, saying, "We drafted JJ for this moment. He's learned from one of the best and we're confident he's ready to lead." The fan base were pretty split on the decision. Half of Minnesota was ready to see what the kid could do. The other half couldn't believe the team just let their playoff quarterback walk after a 14-win season. And for McCarthy, that's where the real pressure began, because he wasn't just stepping into any situation. He was stepping into a franchise coming off its best season in 20 years, replacing the guy who got them there. No rhythm, no experience, no margin for error. So when J.J. McCarthy finally took the field in 2025, he wasn't just trying to start a new era. He was trying to live up to one that never should have ended. This was supposed to be the leap year, the prove-it season, where J.J. McCarthy reminded everyone why he was a top 10 pick and showed the league that the year of waiting was worth it. The Minnesota Vikings were coming off a 14-3 season, the best record they'd had in nearly 2 decades, led by a guy in Sam Darnold that everyone had written off as a failed prospect, who somehow turned into a legit starter under Kevin O'Connell. When the team decided to move on from Darnold in the offseason, it sent a clear message to everyone, from the locker room to the fan base. J.J. McCarthy wasn't just the future anymore, he was the standard. The Vikings didn't go 14-3 by accident. They were a playoff team, a contender, a complete roster that was ready to win right now. So when they handed McCarthy the keys, the expectation wasn't to develop, it was to keep the machine rolling. No rookie grace period, no learning curve, just immediate results. Minnesota fans expected fireworks. The media called it the perfect handoff. McCarthy was stepping into one of the most stable, quarterback-friendly situations in the NFL, the same system that turned Sam Darnold's career around. So when he took that first snap in Week 1, the pressure was already sky high. He wasn't just trying to prove himself, he was trying to prove the Vikings were right for letting a playoff quarterback walk. But what's happened so far this season hasn't been good. Week 1 looked like a fairy tale beginning. J.J. McCarthy walked into Soldier Field and looked the part. Calm, efficient, and clutch. With the game on the line, he engineered a fourth-quarter drive capped by a back-shoulder dart to Jordan Addison for the win. The Vikings escaped 27-24, and the headlines the next morning anointed him Minnesota's next great hope. But Week 2 came crashing down. At home under the Sunday night lights, the Vikings faced the Atlanta Falcons and got dominated. McCarthy finished 11 of 21 for 158 yards and 2 interceptions, while Atlanta smothered Minnesota's offense and held them to just 6 points. The hype faded overnight. After an ankle sprain sidelined him for 6 weeks, McCarthy returned in Week 9 against Detroit and flashed again. 143 yards, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers, and a win. For a brief moment, the optimism returned. The media started whispering redemption. Then the wheels came off hard. Over the next 3 games, McCarthy didn't just struggle, he practically imploded. He completed just 53.7% of his passes, the lowest mark in the entire league over that span. Every throw looked rushed, every read came a second too late, and every drive seemed to end the same way: a turnover, a sack, or both. His adjusted EPA per play ranked 36th out of 37 qualifying quarterbacks, meaning his plays weren't just unproductive, they were actively hurting the team. Nearly 1 out of every 3 times he faced pressure, 31.3% to be exact, it turned into a sack. And if you want to know just how bad it's gotten, this stat really shows how bad it has for JJ. According to the stat EPA per dropback, which measures how much a quarterback helps or hurts his team every time he drops back on a passing play, JJ ranks 851st out of 852 qualified passers since the year 2000. That's not a typo. 851 out of 852, and the only QB worse is one of the biggest quarterback busts in NFL history, Jamarcus Russell. EPA is basically the ultimate test of efficiency. It doesn't care about highlight throws or empty yards, it tracks how every dropback changes your team's expected points. Hit a deep ball on 3rd and long, positive EPA. Take a sack or throw a pick, negative EPA. And right now, almost every time McCarthy drops back to pass, Minnesota's odds of scoring actually go down. That's not rookie growing pains, that's a historical collapse. When you're drafted because of your intelligence, poise, and efficiency, and the analytics say you're doing the exact opposite, it stops being about potential and starts being about reality. And even when the pocket was clean, McCarthy didn't deliver. He completed fewer than 60% of those easy throws, the kind of passes top quarterbacks are supposed to feast on. The mistakes piled up: 6 interceptions, 5 sacks taken, and just 2 touchdowns across his last 3 games. This wasn't a learning curve, it was a collapse. Every snap looked like panic, every read looked late, every decision looked forced. And for a quarterback drafted because of his decision making, it's been those very decisions tearing him apart. Here's where it gets ugly. Not for O'Connell, but for JJ. The media's asking the hard question. If Kevin O'Connell is such a quarterback whisperer, why can't JJ McCarthy play? This is the same coach who turned Sam Darnold into a playoff quarterback. The same coach who made Nick Mullins, Josh Dobbs, and a washed Carson Wentz look serviceable when pressed into duty. So when McCarthy looks lost, missing checkdowns, holding the ball too long, throwing off his back foot, it's impossible to blame the system. At some point, you stop asking what's wrong with the offense and start asking what's wrong with the quarterback. The stats tell part of the story. 6 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 54% completion, 57.9 passer rating through 12 weeks. But the film is worse. His footwork looks panicked. He locks onto his first read. He drifts backward instead of stepping up. The poise that defined him at Michigan, gone. The command that made him a first rounder, gone. And when he tries to improvise, it's chaos. Even teammates are frustrated. Cameras caught Jordan Addison waving his arms after another underthrown deep ball. Justin Jefferson, who re-signed expecting elite quarterback play, has shown visible irritation after stalled drives. That calm, confident kid from Michigan now looks shaken. The moment too big. It's still early in JJ McCarthy's career, but the honeymoon is over. The Vikings believed in him so much they let a proven 14-win vet walk away. They gave him an elite coach, elite weapons, and one of the most complete rosters in football. And yet, through 12 weeks, McCarthy has looked like the weak link on a team built to contend. The arm strength, still there. The leadership, flashes. But the decision-making, confidence, and rhythm, completely gone. This was supposed to be the year he proved he belonged. Instead, it's turned into a cautionary tale, a reminder that not every winner in college can handle the NFL storm. Because at this point, with Kevin O'Connell still calling masterful plays and the same roster that won 14 games last year, you can't help but wonder, maybe it's not the system, maybe it's JJ McCarthy. So now what? JJ McCarthy has shown glimpses of why he was a top 10 pick. The arm talent, the mobility, the leadership, but he's also shown every red flag that keeps coaches up at night. Shaky accuracy, costly turnovers, and the kind of injuries that stall development. The question isn't if he can play at this level, it's whether he can do it consistently. Can McCarthy string together 5 to 10 quality starts and prove he can lead a playoff caliber roster? Can Kevin O'Connell tailor the system enough to build his confidence back up? And maybe most importantly, are the Vikings willing to wait, or is the clock already ticking on the future of the franchise? For now, JJ McCarthy remains a mystery, a quarterback with all the tools, yet none of the results. The Vikings handed him the keys to a 14-win contender, and so far, he's stalled the engine. What do you think? Is J.J. McCarthy still the future in Minnesota, or just another college star who couldn't make the leap? Let me know your thoughts down below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Gridiron Dungeon, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next deep dive. We've got more stories, more breakdowns, and more NFL drama coming your way. We'll see you